Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of Dropping Knowledge with Noah. Today, we've got a very special guest, Bethany Johnson, here from the Vauto team, who has just the most insane amount of Vauto inventory experience that you can ever think of. And we're going to be kind of talking about what's going on in the inventory world, what our inventory levels are at, what consumer confidence is, and just kind of taking into account like the recent report from our very own Jonathan Smoke about what's kind of going on in the world of inventory. So before I kind of jump into some questions about this, and get into the conversation here, I want to have, Bethany introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your experience and what brought you here today.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Noah. Great to be here. Wow. Started selling cars in my younger years, let's just say, and a couple decades later, I am working for Cox. I was 11 years as a Vauto performance manager after about 20 years retail in automotive in Metro Atlanta. I have a passion for the German automotive. Started selling Volkswagens, moved to Audi, Porsche, and then Mercedes. But over the last 13 years, I've probably worked with over 600 dealers. I'm still learning. I learn from them. I learn from the market. And most importantly, we have to move and learn from the consumers and what the shoppers want. So,
That's awesome. That's awesome. And just in our short time knowing each other, I think my brain has grown about three sizes, just downloading all the knowledge that you have. So it's just really, really great to have you joining us today. So let's kind of get right into it. We've seen a surge in consumer spending at the end of 2024, but it's kind of pulled back in 25. So what do you think this shift in consumer behavior, like how it's going to impact dealerships' inventory strategies going forward?
yeah, I think it's kind of the case of two worlds, right? So you've got new cars had this gluttony of a lot of inventory on the ground. They had to get super competitive. Rebates and incentives made it come back. And then the rates went up. So, it's kind of that roller coaster that we have, whether it's seasonal or market driven. Yeah, for 2025, I think it's still going to be strong. I mean, everything that Jonathan Smoke has shared with us, we're looking for definitely some strong outputs in the used car market, right? So the used car market, there's not as much inventory. We have about 2.2 million less lease returns that will be hitting this year. That's
Oh, wow.
yeah, that's thanks to that little thing called COVID and that chip shortage that created those lease turn-ins. A void, either them not coming in or the customers were buying their own leases. So
Yep.
starting to see that kind of bump in the snake come out. So the good news is after 2025, we'll be over the hump. But dealers have to get more creative and competitive at getting the acquisition. And that's always been and will continue to be a pain point is getting the right cars at the right price.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And I think that actually covers the second question I had, which was kind of talking
I
about
jumped
consumer
ahead.
sentiment, right? So you kind of, it's
Yeah.
declining in January and February. And so, like you said, it's using those incentives, being more aggressive with pricing, being more aggressive with your inventory acquisition strategy to make sure you've got the cars to sell. But what we've actually seen is, despite those economic challenges, new and used vehicle sales have actually shown pretty good resilience. So what factors do you believe are contributing to this strength, and how can dealerships kind of leverage these trends to maximize their inventory?
Yeah, I think this kind of goes into your lane, Noah, with your wealth of knowledge from the shopper's point of view, is really that merchandising. I remember,
Yep.
talking with dealers or even being a dealer, merchandise, no, I don't feel like doing my vehicle descriptions. I don't really care about my photos, and maybe it takes too long. Really, the devil is in the details. So, yes, it's great to have the rebates and incentives. Are you putting them on your banners? Are you doing a billboard? Are you really showcasing them in the photos? I think the data, and you have to keep me honest, but I think the data is like 80% of the shoppers now go and only look at the photos. They very seldom
Yeah.
go into the vehicle description. That's not to say we can omit doing that. We still need to do that, but really make the vehicle be the star in the photos as well as the affordability, kind of thinking through the lens of a shopper of, yeah, what is, 4.9%? Well, it means, it could be an aggressive price. Even with the rates going up, the affordability could be coming
Yeah.
down with maximizing those incentives.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, when it comes to merchandising, I think actually it was dealer.com. We did a study 4 or 5 years ago, and it was, for a new car that has custom photos, the likelihood that they're going to get a lead within 7 days increases by 30%. And for used, that's a 40% increase. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot of manual labor. And there's so many new tools out there to simplify that. Vauto's got a great photo taking app, right? That
Yeah.
simplifies it, makes it really easy to get your photos up. But also, those 360 spins,
Yeah.
highlighting those key features, simplifying your pages so that it's easy to understand your prices and have simple calls to action. All those little things are going to add up in the end, and give you more at bats, right? Which are phone calls, form leads, deal submissions, all of that great stuff. And it's like you said, the devils are in the details. Um, so that's actually a good segue, right? So we saw auto loan rates, they've increased in January. So that puts that upward pressure on the monthly payments. So how can dealerships address those affordability concerns and still attract buyers in this environment? I mean, we're looking at $75,000 F-150s, and like the average transaction price of a new vehicle is in the mid 40s, and everybody's kind of feeling that pinch. What can dealerships do to help consumers out?
Yeah, I mean, I think what is the average new car payment is like $756. So it is a very big disconnect when you look at what the average American afford payment wise is around the 400. So, what does that mean? They're going to just magically come up with this huge down payment? Probably not. But what do they have as a down payment? They have trade-in. So what they have is typically something that will get them to that payment as long as you're maximizing pulling the customer into that experience. Yes, we've got some, tax advantages coming in. It's about to be tax season. As Jonathan said, we're starting to see a little nice bump from that, and that's great, but you have to attract that customer. You have to, lean in, like you said, the 360s and calling it out in the photo experience. We also have what's called intelligent promotion, which is like a billboard. It literally is the billboard in between your photos saying this $75,000 vehicle actually breaks down into these kind of payments or leases, as well as calling out what you're talking about in the 360 hotspots if it's got this huge package of safety and technology. So, showing the value proposition, not only in all the goodies that you're getting on the vehicle, but also on the affordability. That's what's going to be successful, for dealerships moving into hopefully a really robust spring. But until then, you got to do the details.
So, let's talk about used vehicle prices. They're actually higher year over
Yeah.
year, and it's strong demand and limited supply. Like you said, lease returns are still lagging. And it's crazy to think that we're still dealing with the effects of COVID 5 years after the fact, but that's just how monumental that event really was. So how can dealerships really navigate this competitive market to ensure they're meeting those customer needs while, maximizing and maintaining profitability, so they're not getting squeezed on those margins as much.
Yeah, yeah. I think it starts with, first of all, having the cars that are affordable. And where do you get those? You get those from, your pipeline. So very similar to your background, having those campaigns to pull in your existing clients. Maybe they have a 2-year-old vehicle that they love and are super attached to, but maybe you can get them in a new one, have that nice vehicle under a $40,000 price range that you could then sell to someone else and get them into something newer, maybe with a lease or that kind of incentive. So not only I think customers do or dealers do a pretty good job of marketing to who they sold to before, right? Because it's that immediate gratification. But thinking outside the box, you've got that beautiful service drive for those franchise dealers. Thinking there are people that service with you that did not buy from you, especially with the migration in the house market. You've got people in your backyard that maybe weren't there a year or two ago. So, really maximizing the service lane as a different and also a robust source for those vehicles, as well as even private party listings, such as, on Auto Trader and other sources, people who may just, have something that they want to get rid of, and maybe it's an extra work truck, who knows, but just getting creative. Us A types don't tend to be creative, but those are a couple
Yeah.
ideas we're seeing that work. And
Yeah.
then once you have those affordable vehicles, making them, just really shout it from the rooftop how great they are, and do a good job of leaning into those campaigns.
Absolutely. Your service drive, and we're going to keep saying it over and over and over again, but it's your own personal auction where you're not paying auction fees and you're the only guy who gets shot, right? And yeah, maybe your conversion rate on them is a little bit lower because people are servicing their vehicle. They want to keep it a lot longer, but hey, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So putting offers on every vehicle that comes in and showing people, hey, we can get you in another vehicle, right? And
Yeah.
that helps you build out that used inventory. And right now it's the tax refund season, and it's off to a strong start. Consumer spending and demand for used vehicles, once again, it's high. So what do you see dealerships doing to capitalize on this, tax refund season, and maximizing their sales during the spring as things start to heat up?
Yeah, I think, it is that communication of getting out there, and you know, w- when you work at a dealership, you're sometimes not as focused on what it looks like for the consumer, what they're really trying to achieve. But whether it's a different source of vehicle, really the acquisitions. I mean, if you have the right car, you're going to attract the right client. Um, but we can't let it sit in the back, and we can't let it, I mean, somebody else down the road has a vehicle that they may also be looking at. So really that
Yeah.
speed to online, right? I mean, speed to frontline used to be how we said it, but it's speed to online. um, and if you don't have photos, or I used to say, if it's dirty on all aspects, take a picture of the odometer and say coming soon, right? So there
Yeah.
is technology to kind of, more efficient ways to get the vehicle completely online, even if it still is running through the shop. And
Yep.
telling them what you do in the shop. I think that was one thing, even working for Mercedes, is, we could have done a better job of telling them all the cool stuff those techs check out before they let it roll out, whether it's safety
Yeah.
inspected or certified. There's so much those techs know and are educated on. That car is going to be top notch. We need to convey that and really make sure the shopper knows how great our car is versus the one down the street.
That's great. I think, just listening to you, I think a lot of dealerships need to really pay attention to their recon process, make it as efficient as possible. So have tools that allow you to track what's going on, make sure you got all your accounting dialed in, and making sure that it's getting through the shop quickly. So, like you said, acquisition to frontline ready. How can you speed that up, but also make sure you're not losing out on quality, because the last thing you want to do is send out a vehicle that's got an issue, or that this, that, or the other thing. So really paying attention to your processes and every aspect of the dealership, and then singing from the rooftops how great that vehicle is and make that car the star. All right, one last question, right? So the leading indicators from Cox Automotive, so past the spring, right? What's going on a little bit, 6 months down the road, are kind of mixed, right?
Yeah, right.
So, what insights can dealerships draw from these indicators to kind of refine their inventory strategies and improve that performance? How can they prepare for the long term? Because right now everybody thinks in 30-day increments. What did you do for me today?
Yeah.
But how can we think a little bit further out? How can we, plan for the whole year perhaps, so that we've got a steady, business going on?
Yeah, I mean, it's that classic case, hero to zero kind of thing, every month, every month. But there are dealers out there that are thinking 2 years down the road, and what do I need for my CPO products a year down the road? So kind of thinking of the end in mind and leaning into that. But using technology, we have, whether you're a one rooftop or multiple rooftop, you want to know your seasonality of what you need to stock. Yes, you have a sales goal. How are you going to hit that sales goal based on what you're stocking? We have something that's coming out in beta, which is acquisition project, stocking project, and it's basically incorporates your seasonality as well as what the market is doing, and incorporates what you should be stocking based on what you do well and the market. So whether you have that or you have just an Excel spreadsheet that you're using, but use that to read the data, to read the tea leaves, because going off your gut does not work, because this market is not something that is just, rinse and repeat. You have to be
Yeah.
thinking 3 steps ahead. And just, really can't say it enough, is leaning into those rebates and acquisitions, because those new cars that you're selling, those could be your 1 and 2 year old trade-ins for CPO. So really thinking
Yeah.
long picture, and like you said, maximizing the technology for merchandising, and letting the car be the star for that.
100%. And I'll add, I think another thing, I forgot what the stat was, but like dram- a really, really small amount of dealerships are scheduling shoppers their first service appointment on the day of sale, right?
Yeah, that's crazy,
And
right?
you think what we know is if we can schedule somebody for that first service, it increases the likelihood they're going to service that vehicle or the lifetime of that vehicle by 40%. And not only are you getting that revenue from fixed ops, but you're also getting the opportunity to buy that vehicle back when, 2, 3 years down the road comes around and they're looking for their next vehicle. You got that first shot. So
Absolutely.
like you said, it's think, 2, 3 years down the road. So it's not, hey, just sell the car and see you later. It's sell the car, get them into that next life cycle, and then think about what they're going to be doing when their next car is coming around. All
Yeah,
right. So
absolutely.
that's the end of the interrogation. Thank
Oh,
you so
thanks.
much,
That
Bethany.
was pretty easy. Thanks, Noah.
Yeah,
You went
super
you went
simple,
easy on
straight
me.
to well, it's easy when you know so much, right? And you have so much knowledge, and then you really can articulate stuff so effectively. So once again, thank you so much for joining us today. And
Yeah,
everyone, stay
thanks.
tuned for more dropping knowledge of Noah. Thanks again, Bethany.
Yeah, yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for the time.